Greetings to my dear guests on this video. I wish you a pleasant viewing and look forward to your feedback in the comments. My name is Barbara, and I've been a graphic designer at Elixir Solutions for just over 3 years. Our office sits on the 17th floor of a sleek glass tower downtown. Modern, buzzing, and always one pitch deck away from a minor crisis. You know the kind of place. Faux plants in every corner. Desks organized just so. Laughter here, tension there. The low hum of ambition filling the halls. It was the kind of company that took pride in being multi-generational. You'd find interns barely past high school carrying oat milk lattes to meetings they didn't understand, and you'd find people like Darlene from accounting, 63 years old and sharp as ever, running circles around younger analysts. We weren't perfect, but we were good, or we had been. Our team was tight-knit. I worked mostly with the creative department, branding, UI, promo design, and a little bit of animation when timelines allowed. My partner on most projects, Moira, was in her early 40s with a no-nonsense attitude and a wicked eye for typography. We had built entire product launches from scratch with nothing but 4 hours, 10 cups of coffee, and a shared hatred for Comic Sans. There was Ren from UX, who always wore headphones but somehow heard everything. Mark from IT with the sarcastic t-shirts. Even Winston, our older facilities guy, who knew everyone's birthday and always kept a stash of emergency chocolate bars in the supply closet. I loved this place. It wasn't always easy. Deadlines were brutal, and management liked to change strategy more often than I changed my nail color. But there was something oddly comforting about it. A rhythm, a purpose. We were all busy with our important work, racing toward product launches and campaign deadlines, fighting over fonts and margins like the fate of the world hinged on our choices. That Tuesday was just another day in the storm. I spent my morning designing interactive graphics for a health tech client who couldn't decide on a color palette to save their life. By noon, I was juggling 2 Zoom calls, a Slack thread about the company's updated logo usage, and a third round of feedback from a product manager who kept saying he wanted things to be more modern, but couldn't explain what that meant. By 5 o'clock, I was exhausted. I leaned back in my chair, sipping a lukewarm tea, and watched the sun dip behind the skyline. Office lights flickered off one by one. Moira popped her head in and offered a tired smile. "Happy Tuesday," she said, the unspoken "we survived" hanging in the air. And then I got the message. It came through on our company-wide Slack. Attention! All staff are requested to attend a mandatory meeting Thursday morning at 9 a.m. for the introduction of our new CEO. New CEO? That was the first I'd heard of it. No warning, no hints, not even the usual vague memo from HR about leadership transitions. Just that. A sudden announcement, no name, no details. I stared at the screen for a few seconds too long. A new CEO meant change. Possibly good, possibly bad. But mostly, it meant uncertainty. And I hated that more than I let on. I messaged Moira. "Did you see that?" 3 dots appeared. Then, "Yeah, no clue. You hear anything?" I typed, "Not a whisper." She responded with a single emoji. Thursday morning started with the smell of fresh bagels. Someone, probably Ruth from HR, had ordered breakfast for the whole office. There were cream cheese tubs lined up like soldiers on the kitchen counter, fruit platters arranged like edible mosaics, and even a box of pastries that I'm pretty sure came from that overpriced French place 3 blocks down. The mood was light, almost festive. Moira swung by my desk with a coffee in each hand. "New CEO day," she grinned. "Think he's going to be a power suit type, or more of a hoodie and hype man situation?" I laughed, shaking my head. If he's a hoodie guy, I'll give him a chance. If he uses the phrase disruptive synergy, I'm running. Across the floor, people were smiling, chatting, relaxed. Even Mark from IT, who usually avoided eye contact before noon, was holding court by the printer, cracking jokes about how the new guy would probably ask to turn the office into a metaverse. I wasn't worried. No one was, really. We were a good team, a capable team, And whoever this new CEO was, he'd see that. It wasn't like we were some outdated operation waiting for a savior. We were thriving, producing award-winning campaigns, hitting record deadlines, innovating constantly. At 8:55, the entire office slowly filed into the main conference space. It wasn't huge, but it was open and bright, with a projector screen on one end and rows of soft gray chairs. I took a seat near the middle next to Ren, who was already halfway through a bagel, and Moira slid in beside me. A few minutes later, the doors opened. He walked in without a word. Tall, mid-50s, maybe older, navy suit, polished shoes, no tie. His face was unreadable, stone still, not a flicker of warmth. Behind him, two assistants trailed like shadows, each clutching clipboards and iPads. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced Ruth with her usual cheery tone, "please welcome Mr. Thomas Gray, our new Chief Executive Officer." He stepped forward, scanned the room once, and paused. That pause, it was sharp, cold. His eyes moved over us slowly, like he was counting something or assessing a problem. His gaze landed on me for a second too long before shifting toward the front row, where a few of the junior analysts sat, barely out of college. And then he did something no one expected. He scoffed, loud, audible, dismissive. "This is it?" he said, voice flat and incredulous. "These are the teams I've inherited?" A stunned silence fell over the room. "I thought I was being brought into a serious organization," he continued, walking toward the front. "But from where I'm standing, it looks more like a daycare with laptops." I blinked, confused. Surely that was a joke. He didn't laugh. He didn't even smirk. A few people exchanged uneasy glances. Moira stiffened beside me. Ren set his bagel down, his expression blank. "I've been reviewing the team profiles," Gray went on, tapping his fingers against the podium. "And frankly, I don't understand why half of you are even here. What kind of company hires children to make business decisions?" No one moved. No one spoke. "Graphic designers under 25? He said, eyes flicking toward me now. "Why aren't you in college or having babies? What makes you think you belong in a corporate boardroom?" My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't just rude. It wasn't just unprofessional. It was hostile. Ruth stepped forward, trying to recover. "Mr. Gray, I believe our team represents a diverse—" "Don't interrupt me," he snapped. She froze. "From this point forward," he said, louder now, addressing the entire room, "this company will be restructured under principles of traditional efficiency. That means no more vanity hires, no more trendy positions, and certainly no more children pretending to be professionals. Children." The word hit like a slap. I was 24. I had 2 degrees, 3 certifications, and a portfolio that had landed national clients. And now I was being dismissed, erased, because of my birth year. Around me, the energy had completely shifted. The lightness, the friendliness, it was gone, replaced by something thick and bitter. People were staring at the floor, at the walls, anywhere but at Gray. Moira leaned in, whispering, "What the hell is happening?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because the man at the front of the room wasn't just a new CEO. He was a storm. And he had just made it clear who he intended to wash away. No one said anything when the meeting ended. There was no awkward laughter, no fake clapping, not even the usual shuffle of people reaching for their coffee cups. We just stood there, quiet, like we'd all just witnessed something violent and weren't sure what to do next. Eventually, people started to move. Slowly, silently, back to their desks, like nothing had happened. But everything had. I followed Moira out of the room, my chest tight. She didn't speak, neither did Ren. Even Ruth, who always found something upbeat to say, just nodded at people with a stiff, too-wide smile and disappeared into her office. Back at my desk, I sat down and stared at my monitor, without seeing anything. My Figma board was still open from before the meeting, layouts and vector shapes waiting patiently for someone to care about them. I didn't. Slack was quiet. Email even quieter. No one wanted to be the first to say it out loud. What the hell had just happened? By lunchtime, the office felt like a ghost town. Phones barely rang. Meetings were mysteriously rescheduled. Even Lana from sales, who normally narrated her entire workday out loud, was suddenly mute behind her triple-screen setup. I messaged Moira. "Did that really happen?" She replied, "He called us children, Barbara. You, me, everyone under 30. That happened." I didn't know how to process it. I was used to microaggressions, to being talked over, underestimated, dismissed. But this was something else. Direct, blunt, cruel. And it came from the very top. Still, I told myself, maybe he was just having a moment. Maybe the shock of the new role, the pressure of leadership, the adrenaline. Maybe it got to him. Maybe tomorrow would bring an apology, a clarification, something. I wanted to believe that. I needed to believe that. Because the alternative meant we were standing on the edge of something much worse. The next morning, I came in early. My desk felt colder than usual. Or maybe it was just me. The atmosphere hadn't improved. People still moved like ghosts, like something was lurking just out of sight. No one wanted to speak too loudly. No one dared to smile. The digital sign near the elevator flashed. Company address, 9 a.m., mandatory attendance. Moira walked in 5 minutes before the meeting, her face pale. "He's going to say something," she whispered. "He has to. That wasn't normal yesterday." I nodded, though I didn't feel it. There was a knot forming in my stomach. Something ancient, something instinctual. At 9 sharp, Gray walked in again. Same suit, same flat expression. No smile, no acknowledgement of the tension in the air. He stepped up to the front of the room, tapped the mic, and cleared his throat. And then he said it. "All women under the age of 25, you're fired, effective immediately." For a second, I genuinely thought I hadn't heard him right. He continued, voice steady, like he was reading the weather. "You should be having children, not working in corporate environments. That's not your purpose." My hands went numb. Around me, people gasped. Someone dropped a pen. A woman near the front let out a small, choked sound. Another stood up, her face bright red, trembling. But Gray didn't stop. "This is not personal," he said. "This is a structural correction. We are restoring order. Families, not figures. Traditions, not trends. The feminine role has been misunderstood for too long in the workplace." I felt Moira grab my hand. She was shaking. So was I. "This isn't legal," someone whispered from the back. Gray heard. "Legal departments have already been informed. Severance will be handled by HR. Do not return to your desks. You may collect your belongings after 5 p.m. today." It was like a guillotine fell in the middle of the room. My brain couldn't process it, couldn't make it make sense. He was serious, dead serious. All women under 25. Gone. I was 24. I had a career, a future, a life I was building day by day, slide by slide, design by design. And now, I was being erased like a typo. We didn't scream, we didn't riot, we didn't cry. Not yet. We just stood. Stunned. Hollowed out. Each of us waiting for someone, anyone, to say, "This is a mistake. This is a joke. This is not real." But no one did. Because it was real. And the man at the front of the room didn't care who we were. Only that we were young women. And in his eyes, that meant we didn't belong. I don't remember standing up. 1 second, I was frozen in my chair, lungs barely working, heart pounding in my ears. The next, I was on my feet, my backpack over one shoulder, my desk behind me for what I knew might be the last time. Moira was already by the door. Her expression was unreadable, stone cold, lips tight. But her eyes burned. Ren followed close behind. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. The silence said it all. Behind me, others were standing too. Jordan, our UI intern, Carla from copy, Mina from marketing, even Alexis, who just turned 23 and had been giddy all week about being looped into the latest rebranding project. We were the under 25, apparently. We were no longer employees. Gray didn't look at us as we filed out of the room. He just watched the wall behind us, like we were already gone, like we'd never mattered to begin with. That, more than anything, cut deep. The hallway was silent except for the sound of our shoes on the tile. Clicks, scuffs, a dropped keycard. No one spoke, no one dared. But the silence was different now, not frozen in fear. It was rising, a tide, a storm. We didn't cry, we didn't panic, we didn't ask questions. We left, because we would not let that man define us. We would not sit still while our worth was reduced to our age and our gender. We would not stay silent while someone tore down everything we had built with arrogance dressed as ideology. Back in the open floor, heads turned as we passed. And for the first time, I saw it. Really saw it. The older employees, the ones Gray hadn't dismissed, weren't celebrating. They weren't smug or indifferent. They were horrified. Darlene, the senior accountant with a silver bun, and the sharpest mind in the building, stood by her desk, a mug halfway to her lips. She didn't blink. She didn't move. Her hand trembled slightly as she set the mug back down. Greg from legal sat hunched at his desk, staring blankly at his screen, like he couldn't believe what he'd just witnessed. Even Steve, the gruff operations lead who once barked at me for mislabeling a PDF, looked stricken. They didn't know what was happening to the company. They only knew it wasn't good. As we reached the elevators, I glanced back one last time. The room felt off-kilter, like the air had tilted, because they knew what we represented. We were the engine, the pulse, the future, and now we were gone. Moira pressed the elevator button with more force than necessary. We waited in silence as the floor numbers ticked down. Finally, someone behind us whispered, "What is he thinking?" No one answered, because the truth was, Gray wasn't thinking. He was erasing, and we weren't going to be the ones left behind with ink-stained cheeks and swallowed pride. The elevator doors opened. We stepped inside. We didn't look back, not because we were defeated, but because we knew something they didn't. We weren't leaving in shame. We were walking toward something. And it was going to be loud. Very loud. By Monday morning, I was no longer on the payroll. Officially, anyway. Unofficially? My inbox still pinged with confused messages from clients. My project dashboard still had my name on them. And the Slack channels I hadn't been booted from yet were full of chaos. Because the company, our company, was falling apart. But Gray? Oh, he was busy. He'd already started his restructuring. He called it restoring order. An email went out to all remaining staff late Friday evening, detailing his new hiring criteria. We will be recruiting employees with more life experience, ideally 40 and above. Maturity is the foundation of sustainability. It was condescending, clinical, and clueless. He spoke of tradition, of legacy, of recentering purpose within the workforce. In reality, he was trying to rebuild a 21st century creative tech firm with people who hadn't opened Illustrator since 2009. He flooded LinkedIn with job postings that looked like time capsules. Seeking experienced professionals, minimum age 40, must value hierarchy, discipline, and structure. No remote options, no Gen Z distractions. The comments under the posts? Brutal. No one bit. Because while experience is valuable, the kind of people Gray wanted, the ones who bought into his outdated vision, just didn't exist. Not in droves. Not in our industry. Not in 2025. The first cracks showed up Tuesday. A major client, Talara Health, emailed demanding an update on the launch graphics we were supposed to deliver that morning. No one answered, because I had been the one designing them, and Moira had been the one managing the timeline. Later that day, another email surfaced from a logistics brand in Atlanta. "Hello, can someone explain why our campaign mock-ups are showing last month's branding? We approved the new assets on June 5th. Yeah, I had built those mock-ups. They were still sitting in my archive drive. By Wednesday, 3 more clients had reached out, frustrated, confused, borderline furious. And the skeleton crew left in the office? They were drowning. Darlene, bless her, tried to juggle finance and operations. She hadn't handled a creative brief in 15 years, but now she was being asked to oversee visual asset approvals. Greg from legal was suddenly fielding account management calls. And poor Jackson from customer support? He'd apparently been promoted to interim creative director. Interim creative director? The man doesn't know how to crop an image. Gray still didn't flinch. He walked the office like a monarch, issuing orders, giving tone-deaf pep talks. "You're all finally being tested," he said to the staff during Thursday's meeting. "You'll rise without the noise, without the distractions, without the children playing business." One woman, Darlene's assistant Fiona, burst into tears during that meeting. He told her to pull herself together or go home and start a family. And still, he couldn't fill the roles, because the people he wanted didn't exist. And the people he'd chased away? We'd been the lifeblood. I watched it all unfold from a distance, my phone lighting up with pings from old teammates, clients, and the occasional brave soul still hanging on inside the building. And I realized something. Gray hadn't just underestimated us. He had overestimated himself. And very soon, he was going to understand just how badly. Elixis was breaking, and everyone could feel it. But Thomas Gray still strutted through the halls like he was leading a renaissance. His loafers clicked on the tile like punctuation marks, his shoulders back, jaw tight, eyes scanning every corner of the office as if he were the only one qualified to judge its worth. He looked like a man in charge. But you know what they say about mirrors. When you avoid them long enough, you start to believe the lie you tell yourself. Gray kept talking about tradition, about families, about the natural design of things. He fired women under 25 with the rationale that we should be at home raising the next generation. He called us misguided, distracted, unfit for the demands of real business. But no one could quite miss the irony. Because Thomas Gray had no family, no photos on his desk, no rings on his fingers, no stories of spouses or children or even nieces and nephews. Just a cold, perfect bachelorhood, framed in brushed steel and high thread count suits. He didn't understand balance, or empathy, or how complex a woman's life could be when she wasn't reduced to a role he decided she should play. It wasn't about values. It was about control. And now he was building an empire out of ash. The hires started slowly at first, 1 or 2 candidates trickling in, then 5, then 10, all over 40. All handpicked by Gray himself. His favorite phrase during interviews? "You remind me of when this industry was clean." Clean, as in pre-digital, pre-innovation, pre-us. One man, Stewart, was brought on as the new head of visual strategy. He showed up with a briefcase, a golf tan, and a proud declaration that he'd dabbled in web design back in the Netscape days. I'm not joking. The man spent an entire Monday afternoon trying to open the cloud in Chrome before asking a remaining junior to print every single wireframe for review, on paper. Another woman, Lucille, was hired as a junior designer, even though she listed her only design tool as Microsoft Word. She submitted a logo comp in WordArt with a rainbow gradient and a drop shadow thicker than her resume. And yet, Gray beamed when he introduced them, called them mature thinkers. Steady hands. They couldn't complete a Figma link. They didn't know what UX flow was. They used Internet Explorer and clients. Oh, they noticed. The first email came from Talara Health, subject line in bold red. Urgent, project halt request. They cited unexplained staffing changes, missed deliverables, and inadequate design standards. 3 hours later, a startup from Austin asked to be transferred to a different agency. The next day, a global skincare brand called Gray's office directly and left a voicemail that someone leaked. "We loved your pitch team. Where's Barbara? Where's Moira? What's happening over there?" Nobody answered. Not because they didn't want to, because no one knew what to say. Inside the building, it was worse. Darlene, our queen of numbers and common sense, took early retirement. One day, she was triple-checking payroll and eating lemon yogurt at her desk, and the next she was gone. Her monitor black, her chair pushed in neatly like she'd never existed. Greg from legal stopped speaking during team syncs. He just sat in the corner now, hollow-eyed, clicking through compliance files like a machine on its last battery bar. And Jackson, sweet, awkward Jackson, had been promoted to interim creative director. The man once admitted he thought vector graphics were a brand of cereal. He was now the head of what used to be one of the top digital teams in the region. I wasn't there to see it. Not officially. But I heard everything, the ones still inside. The few that hadn't quit out of rage or fear kept sending me messages, screenshots of failed client meetings, Slack threads where Gray demanded all visuals be optimized to reflect classic values without explaining what that meant. Photo evidence of someone trying to run Adobe Illustrator from a thumb drive. I laughed when I saw the WordArt logo. I cried when I saw the client feedback notes that used to have my name on them, now marked incomplete or below expectations. We had built something. It wasn't perfect, but it was ours. It was modern, sleek, smart, and responsive. And he'd gutted it in less than a month because he couldn't stomach the fact that the women doing the work weren't the women he thought should be working. What Gray didn't understand, what he could never understand, was that experience means nothing without humility. Wisdom without relevance is just ego-wearing bifocals. He thought he was restoring order. He was dismantling excellence. And maybe, just maybe, he was starting to realize it. Because that night, I got a message from an old friend in IT. Just 4 words. He's accessing your files. I smiled. Gray was trying to find what he'd thrown away. He was trying to resurrect what he killed. But the thing about ghosts, we don't stay quiet forever. Gray thought I was gone. He thought we all were. He watched us walk out of that glass box of a conference room like we were just a glitch in his system, something messy to be purged, tidied, rewritten. But I didn't leave in a panic. I didn't pack up my desk in tears. I didn't even wipe my files. Because I wasn't done. Not yet. You see, in 1 week, Elixis was scheduled to host its biggest pitch of the year, an industry-wide virtual summit streamed live to over 100 clients and stakeholders. It had been teased on social media, confirmed by email, embedded in the calendar of every exec with a budget. And it was ours. Our team, me, Moira, Ren, Mina, Carla, we'd been building the campaign for 6 straight months. It was called NovaFrame, a futuristic digital marketing framework that combined real-time analytics with adaptive brand styling. Think Netflix meets design, meets instant personalization. It was sleek, smart, complex, and irreplaceable. It was also completely undocumented, intentionally so, because we were building something new, something no one else had done before. And we'd kept it close, for security, for creative control, for pride. We presented updates through encrypted decks, stored files locally, used team-only workspaces. Gray had no idea what it was, but the company had advertised the hell out of it. The launch event was scheduled for Thursday. Now it was Friday, which meant he had less than 6 days left to figure out how to present a product he didn't even know existed, without the only people who understood it. Good luck with that. I knew he would try. I knew he'd look for the files, try to piece together scraps, force his newly hired Classics First design crew to reverse engineer something, but he wouldn't find it. Because NovaFrame wasn't just a campaign, it was a language, and we were the only ones fluent in it. We had spent sleepless nights running simulations, building UI tests, analyzing color psychology against heat map data. Moira coded the presentation transitions frame by frame. Ren designed the interactive touch model for live demos. Carla wrote every word of the pitch like poetry, layering tone and subtext until it could convince a stone wall to buy branding services. And me? I tied it all together. I made the visuals sing. I knew how the transitions worked, where the client-facing assets lived, which buttons needed to be clicked to start the animation sequence at exactly the right second, in sync with the narration. Without us, NovaFrame was a corpse, a beautiful one, but dead all the same. So when I left that building, when I said goodbye to my desk, my plant, my mug, with the "design is not a luxury" sticker on it, I wasn't walking away. I was waiting, letting the clock run down, because I knew Gray's ego would never allow him to cancel the launch. He'd promised too much. He'd bragged about it in newsletters, in interviews. His name was already printed in the digital program as the keynote speaker. And when the time came, when the stream went live and hundreds of clients tuned in to see the next big thing, there would be nothing to show. Nothing but an empty screen and a room full of strangers blinking at one another. Because when you fire the architects, don't be surprised when the house collapses. The only question now was, how long before he begged? And when he did, would I answer? By Tuesday morning, the panic had found its voice. For days, upper management had remained strangely quiet. Too stunned, maybe, or too hopeful that the storm would pass. But silence has a half-life. Eventually, it decays into something louder. And now it was starting to spread. The leadership team, people who had weathered funding droughts, PR crises, even a fire in the server room back in 2018, were realizing something that should have been obvious from the start. Thomas Gray wasn't saving Elixis. He was sinking it. It started with a meeting. A private one, just the execs, no assistants, no cameras, no note-takers. Except one of them leaked it. And I listened to the entire audio file while sipping a smoothie on my balcony. "We are 5 days away from the NovaFrame launch," said Nadine, the head of strategic partnerships. "Do you have any idea what that means?" Gray's voice was low, defensive. "I've reviewed the internal briefs." "No, you haven't," snapped Kyle, director of product. "Because there are no briefs. There are no instructions, no documents, no builds. The team that created NovaFrame is gone. You fired them." A pause. Then the unmistakable creak of someone shifting in their chair. "I acted in alignment with company values," Gray replied coldly. "Whose values?" That was Amrit from Client Experience. "Because the people we're supposed to present to on Thursday don't care about your values. They care about the product, and right now, we don't have one." The room fell quiet for a second. Then Nadine again, this time softer. "Why did you do it, Thomas?" No answer, so she continued. "These were the best designers we had, the most innovative thinkers. They were young, yes, but they were leading. Do you know how many enterprise clients signed early access agreements because of NovaFrame? 12. Do you know how many of them are threatening to pull out if the launch fails?" Still no answer. "You humiliated them," she added. "For what? Some 1950s fantasy about women and family? That's not leadership. That's sabotage." The air crackled. Even through the recording, I could hear the tension. Then Kyle, voice raised, "Fix it. Now. I don't care what you have to do. I don't care who you have to call. Fix it. Bring them back. Beg if you have to. We're out of time." Gray's voice was clipped. "That's not an option." Nadine's reply was almost a whisper. "Then neither is your position." Click. The file ended. I set my smoothie down slowly and stared out across the street. 5 days left. The wolves were at his door. The truth was closing in. And Thomas Gray, the man who thought he could erase women under 25 with a single sentence, was about to learn what happens when you try to lead a company without understanding who actually built it. He waited 2 more days. Then, on Wednesday afternoon, just 24 hours before the NovaFrame launch was scheduled to go live, I got the email. Subject line, "Let's talk, a fresh start." I stared at it for a full minute before opening it. The message was short. Too short. "Barbara, I've been reflecting on our last interaction and believe we may have misunderstood each other. I'd appreciate the chance to reconnect and discuss your work on NovaFrame. Your talents haven't gone unnoticed. Let's have a constructive conversation." Thomas Gray. No apology. No accountability. Just vague corporate language wrapped in a condescending bow. But what struck me most wasn't what he said. It was what he didn't know. Because Gray still thought we were in the dark. That we didn't know about the meeting behind closed doors. that we hadn't heard the audio of Nadine calling him out, or Kyle demanding he beg. He thought this email would read like goodwill. To us, it read like desperation. He was trying to follow orders, not make amends. And we weren't falling for it. Moira got the same email, so did Mina, Carla, and Ren. One by one, we all responded the same way, with silence, until Ren finally broke it. He hit reply all on our private group chat and said simply, "Should we let him squirm?" Carla, "Squirm, then fall." Moira, "I say we give it to the people who actually want us back." So I drafted the response. It wasn't long, but it was enough. Thomas, "We're aware of the pressure you're under. We're also aware of the meeting on Tuesday with senior management, the one where they told you to fix what you broke. You're not reaching out because you respect us. You're reaching out because you're afraid. We won't be speaking with you. If anyone at Elixis truly wants our return, they can contact us directly. Professionally. Respectfully. And not through you. Barbara." And then we forwarded the email thread to Nadine, Amrit, and Kyle. No explanation, no embellishment, just facts. We gave it 1 hour. Then Moira got the call. "Nadine, direct line. Can we meet?" And just like that, the power shifted again. Gray thought we didn't know, but we did. He thought we'd come crawling back. But we weren't the ones on our knees. We met on neutral ground. Not the conference room Gray used to pace in, not the auditorium where he declared our value meaningless, but a quiet, bright space tucked away on the top floor where the real decisions now happened. The air felt different, lighter. This time, we weren't there as subordinates or supplicants. We were partners, professionals, creators of the very thing that was about to save the company from its own arrogance. Nadine was the first to speak. "There's no justification for what happened," she said, not reading from notes, not trying to spin it. "We failed to protect you, and now, if we want Elixis to survive, we need to not only acknowledge the damage, we need to fix it." Kyle, usually guarded, leaned forward. "You're not just the solution, you were the company." And that's when I knew. We had won. But not in the way Gray would have measured it. Not with domination. Not with ego. We had won because we held to our worth. We had walked away, and they had watched the foundation crumble without us. We didn't demand apologies, though they were given. We didn't offer instant forgiveness, though the path to healing had begun. We did, however, outline our terms. Gray would be gone, officially. Not tucked into a consulting role, not shifted into a title with no teeth. Gone. Every woman under 25 who had been fired would be offered re-entry, publicly, with compensation for time lost. The culture would change. From the top. Not through workshops or hollow slogans, but through action, policy, and voice. By noon, the company announced a leadership restructuring. By 3, Thomas Gray had cleared out his office. He didn't look at anyone on the way out. No grand speech, no redemption arc. Just a man undone by his own inability to understand the very people he was supposed to lead. Nova Frame launched the next day. The virtual event had over 120 clients in attendance, triple the initial projection. The design, seamless. The strategy, sharp. The voiceover, Moira herself, clear and firm, opening with the words, "Created by those who were told not to create." It wasn't just a product launch, it was a reclamation. By the following week, 6 former clients who had ghosted after the purge returned. 2 new ones joined, citing our transparency and next-gen innovation. Elixis survived. But not because of Gray. Because of us. Because we didn't crumble when dismissed. Because we didn't cave when humiliated. We knew our worth, even when someone else tried to redact it. And that, above all, is what I want anyone under 25 to take from this story. You will be underestimated. You will be told, in ways both loud and subtle, that you are too young, too green, too emotional, too ambitious, too much. And it will sting. But don't shrink. Don't water yourself down just to make someone else comfortable. You don't owe anyone your silence in the face of disrespect. You owe yourself your voice. The truth is, the world doesn't fear youth because of its inexperience. It fears youth because of its power, its ability to rethink, rebuild, and reshape everything that came before. People like Gray cling to their power because they know what's coming. You. So come anyway, create, challenge, refuse to be erased. Because your future doesn't belong to them, it belongs to you. And when you stand up, walk out, and demand better, not just for yourself, but for everyone watching, you don't just reclaim your story, you rewrite theirs.